Hi, I'm Devin Thorne, and I'm here from Access Dorado. And can you guys introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. I'm Bruce Nixon,
And I'm Larry Butler.
and we're here to talk about a community process with you.
Can you tell me a little bit about your visioning process in Dorado County?
Sure. We have created a process that we hope that people will want to use to help to solicit and formalize public opinion about a great many planning processes that are ongoing in the county. This was developed as a result of an issue that arose in the general plan amendment process that requires community identification. Several attempts have been made to do similar types of processes in the past, but they have ended up not getting to the point that was necessary for them to move forward. And as a result, we've observed some of those processes, and we think that we've made improvement on that whole aspect of the planning process so that we can now come out and share this with various parts of the community in hopes that they will use it. It's essentially, the goal is to try to involve as many and all of the stakeholders in a community as well as the general public with regard to a variety of different issues in their own communities. Essentially, what we're trying to get communities to identify is how it is that they want to live their lives and be identified in their own communities for what they do. And that involves a lot of different aspects or elements in the community itself.
The process is one that's designed specifically around concepts of trying to reach all individuals in the community, make sure that all positions are represented, and establishing a cohesive picture of what the community both is and is likely to become, and what people want it to become. And that's a central area of it. And in order to do that, we try to canvass all of the potential groups that are available in the community who have a voice, and many of those who do not have a usual voice, to make sure that they have that kind of an input. And then we incorporate multimedia. So we utilize art, we utilize word of mouth, we utilize pictures, we utilize video, whatever we can utilize to help people both identify what their own thoughts are and what their own preferences are, and what they foresee as being a community that will enhance their life.
So, how do you hope that the art will help to tie people into the community process?
Good question. People learn in lots of different ways. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people need multimedia stimulation in order to do that. Art incorporated into this process is a way of illustrating what people are thinking. Thoughts come not just in words, but they come in pictures. And artists help us capture those images and see what we're talking about. We get to see what we're talking about. Without going out and building all of the community, they can, in fact, render it in such a way that it says, is this what you envision? See, the usual way is to look specifically at what the community looks like. That is, what its appearance is. But artists have a way of capturing feelings as well. So we try to capture the feeling that we want to have in our community. And you get to see that in an artistic rendition as well as hearing it described in words.
So, rather than going out and just building everything based on the ideas that you have, you want people to come through and build the idea on paper first than anything.
Well, on paper, in music, in lots of artistic ways can be incorporated. We want them to capture as much as, we want the artist to capture as much as possible the feeling as well as a visual representation of what people are saying when they come together in a group and say, for my personal well-being and what I want out of this community is a place that I can count on other people, that I have friendships, that I have places to go, that my life feels enhanced. That's more than just saying, I like to go home because it looks pretty. Mm-hmm. You know, I like to be in Placerville because it feels pretty.
So how do you hope that this new process will enable people to get to the point where it feels like home rather than just looks like home?
Well, I'm going to answer that question by telling you a little bit about what's been missing from former processes. And our hope is that by adding new elements to the whole structure, that we can actually get what Larry's describing and what you're asking about.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to this, there have been attempts on the part of many parties to try and solicit public opinion for given parts and pieces of community identity, as they call it. But in an effort to try and streamline the process, they've cut out very integral parts of it that they didn't really understand were essential to being able to get the true picture. One of the problems is that they have not done a very good job of getting all of the stakeholders represented in the interchange. And one of the things that we hope that we're going to be able to do is by adding in a whole different stage to the process where we go out and identify stakeholders of various groups. That is the groups of not just the government and the developers, but also educators, healthcare, business, art and science, all of those different elements in any given community. And they normally can self-identify. Mm-hmm. But we put all those people together, one group at a time, in a room, and have them come up with their own sense of identity about what they would like to see from their standpoint happen in the community. Not just in terms of space planning, but also services and how they get delivered, all kinds of interactions that happen between different groups of people. Once they all have done their own self-identification, they also, in the process, choose their own spokespeople. And those few spokespeople from each group will then come together in a room and share what they have come up with. Mm-hmm. What we have learned from past experience, and that we hope will come out of this as well, is that about 75 or 80% of what they identify, they will also have in common. And all too often, the focus has been on differences in opinion, not things that people agree on, commonality. Mm-hmm. So once we have that, we can combine that with the thing that is already being done, which is, and again, can be unpacked a little bit more thoroughly, is what we now call a community intensive, where we open the doors to everybody in the community. And what happens currently is that they have a meeting or two that only last a couple or 3 hours, and not everybody can get there. Mm-hmm. But the people who have a stake in whatever's being developed somehow manage to show up, but they're always the same people. But we want to get the moms and dads who work during the week or who may have a night job that can come in the day. We want students to be able to participate in this. We want religious figures to be involved. We want all kinds of people to come in, look at what's going on, and give their feedback about it as well. Then when you take that community intensive and combine it together with the stakeholders, now you've got a much more complete picture about what that community identifies itself as. And that's stuff that people can use to plan with.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's quite the system you've got planned
Well,
out.
you know, it's not easy. It's hard work. But I think that sometimes in the rush to get to the end result, elements of a process get put aside, and it changes the whole outcome. One of the things that we have found critical about the existing processes out there is that they seem to be created with a given outcome in mind.
Yeah, let me underline that point there, because this is not an easy process. It's not intended as an easy process. And one of the concerns is always that people find it easy to do it a different way, and it's always been incomplete. Mm-hmm. If we do it in a more comprehensive way, it takes more work, effort, and sometimes in ways even time, but it is more representative of the community and representative of the common needs. And this I think captures the big picture of what we think of as well-being in a community, rather than just architecture of the community.
So you're focusing on doing what is easy isn't always doing what is right.
Yeah.
Very good. Well put. I think that's and oftentimes people don't want to roll up their shirt sleeves and do that work, or they think if we have to do this on an ongoing basis, it's too much, or it's too time consuming, or it's too expensive. But if you want a quality outcome, you've got to have a quality process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing that gets in the way of it is that the people that have always done the work in a shorter way, by getting together and making up some idea of how they want it to be and then presenting it to the community, those people are the ones that are most skilled in the processes, and so it keeps getting diverted to them. We want it to represent the community more largely, and in order to do that, we have to systematize it.
To get everybody involved.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Our hope is that if this process is conducted properly, it can be done over and over again, and it's scalable. So you can run this for a community that's very small, like, for instance, the town of El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can run it on a county-wide basis. It obviously takes more work to do it for the entire county, but you can do it for any number of different things. What we're hopeful is that there's also education of the community that takes place. It wakes people up and makes them realize what's going on in their backyard. Mm-hmm. And instead of having people rallied to fight against something that they don't want in their backyard, it has them rallied and educated about the ways that they can actually advocate for things they do want in their backyard. And that gets missed a lot. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping that we can capture that and present it back to those communities, and they go, after we're done, after we collect all of this stuff and we assimilate it, we're going to go back to the same people that we got it from and say, is this the picture that you imagine? Is this what you guys want? And we don't have a right or a wrong answer. We just want to make sure it's properly reflective.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, all kinds of things can happen. But we have to get this process done to get to the next stage correctly.
Quite the system, and it sounds like you guys really have been very involved with it and are working.
How long have we been doing this?
We've been working on it for over a year and a half, I think is.
So how close do you think you're going to be to getting to the point where it can be effective?
Well, we think pretty much that we're there. What we
Mm-hmm.
need is communities who want to take advantage of what we have to offer, which is a broader picture than they ordinarily get, and a way of resolving community disputes that they don't often have an option to do. I think the current projects, which will remain nameless for the moment, the current projects that have stirred so much excitement in the newspaper and controversy in the letters to the editor and so forth, didn't need to come out with this intensity of conflict if the process had been one that from the outset encouraged everybody to have a role and utilized what we can offer. And I think we're at the point where we can do that and can do it quite effectively. And now we need the people interested in taking advantage of it.
It's time to get your name out there and your vision out there.
That's
So
right.
we can
Yep.
increase the community.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that bears answering, although we haven't really broached the question, is we have presented this to a couple of groups, and one of the questions that comes up is, well, how much does this cost? Well, that depends, and it's scalable. And we're not in this to do this as a business. We're doing this just because we're members of the community like everybody else. We're really interested in making sure that the process gets performed properly. And so we really don't have any other, the politically correct term is an agenda. We don't have an agenda. Okay.
Yeah, we don't know what the outcome is, and that's unusual.
Yeah.
But we also don't have a financial stake in it,
Mm-hmm.
other than the financial stake we have of the community itself. Our financial stake is that we want the community to be the best place it can possibly be. I would like it to reflect totally my values. But on the other hand, I recognize that there are other people that have to live in the community too. And one of the values I have is incorporation.
I hope that this process ends up working out and that the community all does end up working together towards their vision of together understanding the community through home is feels like home rather than
Yeah.
home looks like home.
Yeah. And we hope in the end that not only we can perform this, but we can teach other people to do it too. Because if you have a broader number of people who can do this, then any given community runs across an issue that they want to deal this with, and they feel it's the right process, they can do that. So it's not all about us, it's really all about the community.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.